And good evening. It is Thursday, October 8th, just past 7 p.m. My name is Ryan Belmore. I am the owner and editor of What's Up Newp. And joining me, as he normally does for most of these candidate discussions, is my friend Frank Prosnitz, who is news editor for What's Up Newp. Good evening, Frank.
Well, how are you, Ryan?
I'm doing all right. We are going to have a discussion. We have spoken with both of these candidates at length already for 1 hour each. Those discussions can be found on whatsupnewp.com. But tonight we're going to have a discussion with both candidates as we are just a few short weeks away from the election. And we are talking about Ward 2 here in the city of Newport and discussion among the candidates. And facilitating in this and whose idea this was and why we were doing this is because of the Top of the Hill Association. And Harry Elkin is from the Top of the Hill Association. And Harry, this was your grand idea. You talked us into this, and you'll be buying the beers later.
Harry, I wanted to let you know it's not a beer. It's a single malt scotch.
Oh, wow. You're raising the stakes. But first of all, welcome to those members of the Top of the Hill that have tuned in tonight. And also, by the way, welcome to some folks from Off-Broadway Neighborhood Association. There's a portion of the Off-Broadway Neighborhood Association that resides in the Second Ward. And when they became aware of this, they asked if they could participate, and the answer was certainly. Under normal circumstances, we would be inviting these two candidates to meet with us, members of the Top of the Hill, probably at the library for what we call a community forum, where we could meet them face to face, have a discussion with them, get to know them better, get a better feel on how they articulate issues, look at things, make decisions, and maybe share with them feedback on what our issues in the community are, and with the end result in us being better informed on making a decision on election day. But these aren't normal to do that. But as I was watching some of the interviews, What's Up Newport, that Ryan and Frank were doing leading up to the primaries, the tone and tenor and the way they handle these interviews, I thought, that's exactly the way we would do it. And I reached out to Ryan and asked him if he'd be interested in participating with us in bringing these two folks together in one forum. And he said, certainly, and asked that we provide the input, the neighborhood oriented questions. And we did, and we've sent that in. And so that's the agenda that we have today. In working over the last 2 or 3 weeks on this thing, I've actually come to think that there's some positives about doing things like this. For one thing, you folks that maybe normally on a chilly evening would be schlepping down to the library to see a community forum, you can stay in the comfort of your own homes. Maybe you're still having dinner, I don't know, but that's not bad. And more importantly, I think, is that this is recorded. If you miss something or you want to go back and look at something between now and election day, it's going to be there. These guys will show you how to do it. You just click on the website and drill down on things. So I want you to have a good evening. I want you to enjoy yourselves. Ask the questions that you want. Ryan will explain how to get through to them with questions as they come up. We've tried to distill most of the inputs already and given these folks these questions. So that'll be talking points that we go on, but there may be things that pop up as things go on, and we'll try to prioritize it, and they'll take care of getting them through to the candidates. And finally, I'm going to ask Ryan to beam me up or beam me out. I'm not going to be an active participant in this thing. I conduct these things with the Top of the Hill, but these guys have a good chemistry together. I've seen them operate. They've done dozens of these things. And so since I don't have a talking role, I'm really not interested in sitting here looking at myself in a little box for the next hour. So I will be somewhere behind the scenes, right, Ryan? And he'll be able to bring me back if necessary. But have a good evening. I hope we've put together enough stuff for you to make an informed vote on election night, and the rest is up to you. So have a good evening.
All right, Harry, and thank you for helping us organize this. And he is Harry Helkin and Top of the Hill Association. And let's bring up our candidates here. We have Charles Holder and we have Kim Salerno. And good evening.
Good evening.
And we have everybody. I just want to let everybody know at home how this is going to work. As Harry mentioned, the candidates were provided with the questions ahead of time. So that way they could put some thought into it and you will get real answers and you'll get thought about answers. Unlike the presidential or vice presidential debates, these candidates respect each other and they respect us. So this is a discussion, and we're going to be able to spend as much time as we need on any topic. We're going to be able to dive as deep as we can. Frank and I will ask follow-up questions or anything that we find interesting that we want to know more about. If you have a question, you're on Facebook page. You could drop a comment right in Facebook. It pops up in front of me. And if time allows and if it's appropriate, I will bring it up on screen. And that is all of the questions. We determined, I don't even have a quarter. That's the train shortage. So we determined that Charlie would be heads as well as Kim would be tails. And I actually flipped the coin. And
Nicely done.
yes, so it landed on tails. So what we will do is we will allow the candidates to introduce themselves. Then we're going to get into questions. We may bounce around in question order depending on how the conversation going. Again, this is interactive, and if you have a question for the candidates, please do put it in the comments. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with candidates' opening statement. And Kim, would you like to go first?
Thank you. Thank you, Harry, for putting this together. Thank you, Top of the Hill and Off Broadway, for attending. And thanks, Ryan and Frank, for hosting yet again. And thank you, Charlie, for joining me. My name's Kim Salerno, and I'm a resident of 17 Old Beach Road, Newport, in Ward 2. I think this is a beautiful place to live and visit, and I hope to provide experienced leadership to protect the quality of life that I enjoy right now. I will advocate for neighborhoods and residents first, for development, for future development that enhances our city, for a diversified economy that provides livable incomes and a sustainable tax base, and for climate change solutions that add value to the city. My skills are well suited to advancing these goals. I've earned a Master of Architecture from the University of Pennsylvania, and I practiced architecture for a while. And then I left that and worked I worked as a professor for many years, 20 years, and then taught 10 years at the University of Rhode Island. I left that job 5 years ago and now run my own architectural design practice where I focus on small scale residential projects in town. In 2016, as chairman of the planning board, I led the effort to create a new and revised comprehensive plan. This is a policy document that reflects our collective goals and aspirations, and we now live by it. Most recently, I provided leadership for the North End Urban Plan. This plan will provide guidance for developing the North End as it works towards stewarding Newport's vital character. It will serve the city for years to come. I ask you to consider my candidacy, and I ask for your vote. The reasons I'm running for office are because my goals throughout the years have become aligned with community goals. I've participated in many public outreach events where I've come to understand the values that we share and the things that we should be working toward. And so I hope to move from a policymaking decision where I write and think about these goals to a decision-making position where we can now make these goals happen. I hope, as a member of the council, to find other ways to implement our goals by learning about strategic planning or capital improvement and how those endeavors might align with broader planning goals. Again, I hope to provide leadership to protect the character and the quality of life that gives us livelihood in Newport. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kim. And Charlie, you're up next here for a opening remarks.
Great. Well, good evening, everyone, and it's great to be here. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to speak in front of hopefully some new people that haven't seen me yet or may not know me. Thank you to the Top of the Hill Neighborhood Association, as well as Off Broadway Neighborhood Association, and especially Ryan and Frank. The job that you guys have done throughout this campaign last couple of months has just been terrific. Getting the word out there for people to get educated on what they're going to be voting on come November 3rd has just been exemplary. So hopefully you guys win some sort of Pulitzer Prize or
there you go,
award or whatever they have for the online. But so my name's Charlie Holder. I am a born and raised Newport, Rhode Island resident. I went to Sheffield School. I lived in the Second Ward my whole life. Thompson Junior High School, graduated Rogers High School. I did get out of town for college, but made my way back home, and it's been great. I really love this city, and which is why I decided to run for the city council position. I'm the operations manager for Midtown Oyster Bar and also Surf Club, both downtown Newport. We've been here for 8 years now, and one of the main reasons why I'm running for city council is, I just noticed in the last about a year and a half, I've gotten more involved with different things going on, whether it's liquor license expansion or food trucks or obviously everything going on with the COVID-19 pandemic. One of the things that have really started to get to me is that the city council we have right now is a fractured council. And in order to run whether it's a town, a city, a business, a neighborhood association, you need people that are working together, working for a common goal. And I think with my background, my experience of leading people, I think I can be one of those seven that can really help get Newport really back on track and really headed towards a brighter future. I'm also part of I'm on the executive board of the Greater Newport Chamber of Commerce, as well as the Rhode Island Hospitality Association. So I got my fingers in a lot of different pots, and I look forward to tonight. I look forward to hopefully being on the city council and really helping my fellow Newporters.
And thank you, Charlie. One programming note I will notice, I can see everybody when I take you on screen. And if you have a follow-up for anybody, if you already answered a question, but you want to say something else, just throw your hand up in the air and I can see you all when you're off screen, and we'll make sure that we get everybody. So Kim, you got the coin. So would you like to start answering questions first, or would you like Charlie to?
I'm happy to go first.
All right, Frank, why don't you get us started? Why don't you talk for a little while?
Well, I think we talked. We actually talked about the reasons for running and qualifications. But how about your top issues, Kim? It's 3 top issues that relate not only to the ward but to the city.
So I've been thinking a lot about this, and I think the ward issues. The ward issues are the city issues. And for me, the top issue is protecting the vital character. We have a small city. It is a walkable city. It is an historic city, and it has a beautiful natural setting. And I think it's really important to protect that character to continue to thrive through our visitors, and to continue to provide a quality of life that we all come to expect. I served on the HDC for a while, and so I understand the city from that perspective as having historic character, and obviously served on the planning board for years. So I understand through things like demolition permits and subdivisions and new developments, how the city's changing. And so I hope to help create change that is in keeping with the quality of the place that we have. So the top issue is really the umbrella issue, this character issue. The second issue, I think, is the waterfront, and the waterfront is developing quickly. I know there was an event about a year ago where we had a hearing for a new hotel on the waterfront, and I wasn't aware of the public concern over this, and there were a lot of people protesting in front of City Hall, and I was a little surprised by it, and I had to come into the building to lead the meeting, and I didn't know what was going on, so I had to walk around City Hall to get in, because I really wasn't sure what this is all about. But that was the kind of beginning of my understanding that some of the change that is happening may not be desired by all in the community. And so while I think change is good, it ought to be controlled and it ought to be positive. And similarly, the waterfront it's at ground zero for sea level rise. So the issues that are confronting us in terms of the development of the water are also wrapped up into this sea level rise problem. And then finally, as somebody that sat on the planning board for a long time, we see, the concerns over short-term rentals and over the sort of fraying of the social fabric that comes from more and more empty houses. So those are the big things that I hope to address in my time on the council. Thank you.
Charlie?
Yeah. So my three are very specific to the second ward, but they're also part of all of Newport. But number one for me is the education aspect of it. Obviously, we have the school bond coming up on the vote, which is going to be very important, which I am for. And the reason being, having an education environment where people are comfortable, people feel safe to go to, I think is very important for not only just the students to learn, but also for the teachers to actually teach as well. And having a good education in your city, a good program, good schools will hopefully allow people to move into town. Some younger families can move in. Secondly is workforce housing. I think it's a very important issue. Not to be confused with affordable housing. I know that is big as well. But I think in the second ward, the workforce housing is something that really needs to be addressed a little bit more. And I think brought up the topic. There's the proliferation of short-term rentals, Airbnbs, vacation rentals, things like that have really put a hurt on the workforce housing. And by workforce housing, I mean, where are people that are working in town, whether you want to call them middle class or lower middle class or even upper middle class, but where are people that are working in Newport? Where can they live and still be able to commute to work, quickly? Back in, when I was growing up, back in the mid-late 90s, early 2000s, workforce housing was very abundant, especially in the downtown area. You can get an apartment for $800-900 a month for a two-bedroom apartment off Thames Street. Now, I think the average apartment's around $1,900 to $2,000 a month. And that's not just because the cost of living has increased. It's just because, a lot of these properties are being bought by, whether they're people from out of town or even some residents, don't get me wrong, but, they are getting built and used as a business. So I think we need to get, a little bit more of a handle on those properties and, try to get some housing available for people that are working and that, that making that, 50, 60, 70,000 a year range or whatever it can be. My third thing is really the safer streets and the traffic. And I know we're going to talk about that later because I know it's another big issue, especially in the second ward. But I really think it's extremely important. Lynn Segley, who's been the Ward 2 councilor for the last few years, I've talked to her a few times, and one of the things she always brings up is that the neighbors really want to make sure that their streets are safe. They want to make sure that they can, they're free to walk down the street any time of the day, whether they're, riding a bike, whether they're jogging, whether they're pushing a baby carriage, or even just driving their car. They want to be able to know that, they don't have to worry about accidents. And myself, I see this firsthand in my neighborhood. It gets pretty dicey out there, just being on the street. So those are my three things I think are going to be important. There's a myriad of other issues that we'll be dealing with, don't get me wrong, but I think for me, education, workforce, housing, and the safer streets is my three big issues.
Kim, let me jump in here real quickly and go to one of Charlie's issues. Where are you on the school bond?
So I support the school bond. I was an educator for 25 years. I was also a perpetual student. Anybody that knows me knows that I spent a lot of time in school. So I support the bond. I understand the failings of the present building. But more importantly, I will support education endeavors after the school is built. I'll always be supportive of education. That's it.
All right, excellent. What I want to do is I just want to go back and make sure that you both had nothing else that you wanted to add. We talked during the opening remarks about some of the reasons that you're running for Second Ward Council, and I'll start with you, Charlie. Just want to make sure that we double check and that we didn't miss anything with what are your reasons for running the Second Ward Council position, any views, vision, and also what is your background experience that you feel makes you uniquely qualified for the Second Ward Council? I know you brought up a lot of it, but I just want to make sure that there wasn't anything during those two questions that we may have missed. Charlie?
Yeah, no, thank you. Well, one of the reasons I just think I decided to go for a Second Ward is because there was 19 people, I think, going for the at-large. So I think it was just me and Kim in the Second Ward, so I'll take my chances there.
I think it was 37.
But no, I did make my decision for the Second Ward before I knew Lynn was actually going for the at-large seat. So one of my reasons I think for me running for Second Ward is I grew up in the Second Ward. I've always lived in the Second Ward. I grew up on Bliss Road. I lived off of Rhode Island Avenue. I lived off of K Street. Right now, I currently live on Berkeley Avenue. So I've been everywhere in the Second Ward. And to me, the Second Ward is the heart of Newport. It's not downtown, don't get me wrong, but it is the life soul of Newport. It's the most diverse of the three wards. You have everything. You have there's lower income housing, there's higher income housing, there's you have the artsy chic section of Broadway, you have the historic Bellevue Avenue, you have the Cliff Walk, you have mansions, you have the beach. It's just, you have a little bit of everything, and it's really one of the foundations of Newport, where Newport really started from. I just think it's just, like, to me, it's just the best. I was just today, a day like today, it was beautiful out. It was low 60s. It was nice crisp fall day. I got a chance to go downtown, had lunch, sitting outside at one of the restaurants on Broadway. And it's just, you watch the traffic go by, you watch the people go by, and it's, there's not many places in Newport that you get to do something like that. So, why do I think I'll be a good Second Ward counselor? I just think my background is very important as far as there's your quarter.
Found it.
But my background as a restaurant operator, or even just a business operator, I have over 120 employees that I'm in charge of, and they come from all kinds of backgrounds, diverse backgrounds, demographics. And what I've always had to do is, basically try to do everything I can to get everyone to work together to, towards a common goal. And that's exactly what I think a good city council has to do as well. Instead of having employees, I have constituents that, the residents of that ward. And I think because of my background, because of my abilities that I've been successful in doing so, I think I'll make a really good counselor. And also, communication is going to be very, very important. always available. I'm not married. I don't have kids. I don't have any pets, so I have a lot of free time to help out whatever needed. So that's why I'm running for the second ward.
Excellent. Thank you, Charlie. And Kim, I'll bring you back up. And before we get into the issues, I'll ask you the same question just to make sure that we didn't miss anything during your opening remarks is, your reasons for running for the second ward council position, views, visions, and, what do you think makes you uniquely qualified to represent Ward number 2?
So, uniquely qualified. I have been involved with all the big public outreach projects that the city's had for the last 5 years. So that makes me understand the social landscape and the people that live here. But I want to speak to that as well. I was not born here. I am a Rolling Stone. I lived in 15 cities in 15 years. And then we moved to Newport. We moved here from my husband's job. We chose to live here. I've lived here for 18 years. It's the longest place I've ever lived. So for many, I may not be here, but for me, this is my home. So why am I well suited to this position? I have an old boat and an even older house. I know what it's like to own an old thing and to not have a mooring. So I understand what it's like to live here. That's it.
Excellent. Thank you. And I was just checking the sound quality on everybody, and everybody sounds good. Frank, why don't you get us started here on back to the issues?
Well, we talked about the issues, and maybe we can ask, I want to go back a little bit, Kim, and see if you can elaborate a little bit on some of those things that you talked about. You talked about, number one, about protecting the character of the community. You talked about the waterfront, and I'm curious. You told the story about the hotel. I'm curious whether you felt that, in fact, was good development, and about short-term rentals. Those are kind of broad areas. A little more specificity, perhaps, and on some of the things you would actually like to do to make change.
Okay, yes. So with the hotel question, part of Harry's original question asked, yes, no, nuance, gray area. Yes, of course, I believe there are gray areas. I think the issue with the hotels is not that they're all bad, but they have become symbolic of unwanted change, or change that's too dramatic, too quick. So I remember in one of these earlier Zoom forums, Charlie said that he liked the public space at the Hammett's Wharf. And I think a lot of people like that public space. In a perfect world, that platform would actually not look over a parking lot, but would give the public greater visual access to the water. And, I spoke to somebody at a meet and greet event, and they said, oh yeah, the Hammett's Wharf is nice, but when I walk down the hill, I can't see the water anymore. So what I'm suggesting is that there has to be both a balance and a push for public access and public amenities at the water. And recently we had a decision we had to make for Lee's Wharf. And right now, the hotel use is permitted on the waterfront. So what we tried to do was extract community benefit. And one of the ways we did that is to ask the developer to yield an area along the water that would have public access, where the public could sit in a park-like area, so that people who live here could actually sit and enjoy the water instead of being obstructed by a new building. One of the things that we are considering in the North End master plan is a community benefits agreement. This is an opportunity to extract public benefit through development throughout the city. That's one thing. And then, what's your other question?
Well, I want to go back. How did you actually vote on the
I'm
hotels?
sorry.
In the planning board, how did you actually vote on the waterfront hotels?
So this is actually a really important thing to clarify. Some of the decisions are, they're not decisions at all. They're assessments as to whether a proposal is consistent with goals and policies. So they're really narrow in scope. And we have to work with the goals and policies that we have. So with the Lee's Wharf, we voted to approve it. With Hammocks, we voted to approve it. With Hammocks, I would have preferred more public benefit, but we really didn't have the mechanism for doing that. And the reason we got it is because of a little bit of action through CRMC. So CRMC actually got the developers to create this environmental system under the building, which helped to create that public platform. But right now, we don't have the regulatory mechanisms to extract the public benefit. So we have to work with the rules we have, and the rules we have aren't always advantageous to the public.
Thank you, Kim. I'm going to bring us, well, let's kind of stay with the tourism industry here.
You know what? I wanted to ask Charlie, if you were on the planning board, what your position would have been on the hotels?
If I was on the planning board,
Correct.
I think Kim just put it perfectly. You know, they don't decide whether there's going to be a hotel there or anything. All they can do is decide on if whatever construction is going to be in that plot fits into what is allowed. So what I think you just hope is that whoever comes in to build something is going to work with the city and try to do something that's going to help benefit the public, but also obviously it's you know, it's a business, so they're going to want their own too. And I think Hammocks did a really, really good job of that, of kind of combining the two. I would have liked to see it maybe a little bit more right off the street, off the sidewalk, but you know, I'm not an architect, but so I don't know how much room that they had to work with, but obviously I'm in the hospitality industry, so I'm not gonna try to fool anybody. Newport needs more hotels. They need more hotel rooms, I should say. Now, do they all have to be right on the water? Absolutely not. I think we have to be smarter in where they go, and maybe that's something that down the road for the north end. I mean, you look at Middletown. There's a proliferation of hotels right over the border in the Newport Middletown border, on the Middletown side, both going east, off East Main Road, off West Main Road. And why is that? Because people are coming to Newport, and they need hotel rooms. Why is the Airbnbs and short-term rentals so much right now? It's because people come to Newport. It's a tourism destination. It's a beautiful place. But we just have to be hopefully be a little bit smarter and be able to work with any contractors that want to come in, to build. So.
And I want to keep us there for a minute, seeing that we brought up tourism as well as some of those short-term rentals. And I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kim. Go ahead, Kim.
I just wanted to add that I don't know if you can hear me, but I just wanted to add that we don't have either a culture or a history of extracting benefit from developers. So we have a zoning code that has 80% of the properties are non-conforming. And we have a lot of people that come before the city to ask for relief. And we look at the ask and see how harmful is the ask, but we rarely ask for something in return. And so what I'm getting at with this community benefit agreement is that it's time to start asking for something in return. People come in and seek relief. And that's what it means to have leverage. And we have the leverage because, as everybody knows, we have highly desirable real estate. And I think we can get more. And I think they will still come and they will still want to develop.
Thank you, Kim. All right, just making sure here. And I wanted to stay with the tourism here for a minute since we're on it. And the tourism industry is obviously, we can all agree, particularly important to Newport. You have both commented on our forums as well as other forums, as well as other questionnaires on the tourism industry. Wondering if you could share your thoughts on tourism as it impacts the neighborhood environment of the Second Ward, including such things as short-term rentals, long-term rentals, Airbnb, etc. And Charlie, I'll let you go here first.
Yeah. I mean, tourism is an extremely important part of what Newport is. It's been that way since 1639, probably. It's America's first resort. That's what Newport is called. The pineapple logo is, the logo for hospitality. So, it's important to make sure that, I get this question a lot too, and I see them in all the different forums. And I know we have one, I think, coming down the road in a little bit. But it's really important that we try to do the best we can to balance the tourism industry with the neighborhoods. And again, Ward 2, it's right on that line. I know there's, the possibility of a hotel, being built on Broadway, and it's right in the middle of a neighborhood, but it's also right on Broadway where there's a business zone. So that's going to be, an interesting topic coming up. But I think we just need to be smarter. Kim made a great point a minute ago about we need to get some things from developers as well as give some things. And and until we do that, it's going to be an uphill climb. And there's always going to be people there's going to be citizens that are going to be against change, against new buildings and things like that. But sometimes until the buildings are made, and again, I'll go to Hammond's Wharf again. I know people were up in arms about it and didn't like the look of it. It was too big. It blocked my water view, this, that, and the other. But once it's all said and done, it's like, well, kind of fits in. It looks good. It looks like it's been there for a while, and you actually get to access, water views where you really couldn't before. It was a private property before. No one could go down when it was the yachting center, or go down when it was just a parking lot and go sit by the water because it was private. The other big issue I know we deal with, especially with neighborhoods, is the traffic situation. And I know I mentioned that in the ALN questionnaire. What can we do about traffic? I think it's, again, and this is going to be something that probably some people are going to be like, I don't know about that. It's not going to look good, but we need parking. We definitely need parking. And I think parking garages is going to be, the next step and where we're going to go with that. Possibly the Gateway Center seems to be the most logical place right now. It'll have to be elevated out of the floodplain, but I think we can make that happen. If you look at cities similar to Newport on the East Coast, you have like Portland, Maine, Savannah, Georgia, Naples, Florida. Those cities have all put parking garages in, right next to their downtown area, and they made it aesthetically pleasing. They blend in with the surrounding area. And those are up to 4 or 5 story high parking lots. I'm not saying we go that high, but that's what they are. So that's where I think the tourism and the neighborhood situation is.
Thank you, Charlie. Follow-up question on the short-term rentals, long-term rentals, Airbnb. As a Ward 2 city councilor, would you support enforcing stronger restrictions on short-term rentals, Airbnbs? 100%.
Yeah. I think we have to. I'm surprised that we haven't done it yet. I'm going to throw a couple numbers out there, and they might be wrong by now, but the last time I looked, there was something like 690 Airbnb rentals in Newport. And I believe a couple years ago, where they had a task force trying to figure out which ones weren't registered, they only had about 139 registered. I'm sure those numbers have changed by now, but number one, that's a lot of income that Newport's missing out on. not having those registered, whether they're Airbnbs or short-term rentals, or even some long-term rentals. I look at it from a business aspect. If I want to come into Newport and open a business, I have to go get licensing, get permits, pay the fees. Whereas if I have a house here and I want to start Airbnb, I can just go out and do it. I don't have to worry about, paying license fees, even though I'm supposed to. But obviously, a majority of people don't do it, so that's just free income, and that also takes away from the workforce housing, as I mentioned before. I just think that there's 40% of the properties in Newport are not owner occupied. Now I think the national average is just over 60%. That tells me that people are just buying properties to use them for a business purposes, which is all fine and good, but it's really hurting the city, a great deal. And then when you talk about short-term leases, and when you talk about Airbnbs, you got to talk about parking. Where are these cars going? Where's all this traffic going? At least with the hotels, people are going to the hotels, they park their cars, they're out of their cars for the rest of their stay, as opposed to short-term rentals. If you're up in somewhere off K Street, Rhode Island Avenue, Gibbs Avenue, that way, and you're going downtown, most people aren't walking downtown. They're either driving their own car or they're getting an Uber, but they're on the road basically. So I really think we need to really pin down these short-term rentals, these Airbnb rentals, and and start getting the money that the city deserves.
Thank you, Charlie. And Kim, I'll ask you a similar question, and I'll just repeat it. We are talking about the tourism industry, the impact. Obviously, it is important to Newport. Your thoughts on tourism as it impacts the neighborhood environment of the Second Ward, short-term rentals, long-term rentals, Airbnb. And if you also want to add in there, would you support enforcing stronger restrictions on all of those rentals as well?
So about tourism, I do think that we need a diversified economy. And I think the economic history of the city is more complex than just tourism. I mean, I know that, the city started with the triangle trade, and we developed the peak population during the torpedo factory years. The size of the population during the torpedo factory years was around 50,000, I think. And one of the problems that increases in tourism cause is swings in population. And when you have these sort of strains on the community, that can also contribute to strains in the business climate. And I think that diversified economy, focusing on, different kind of job, as the North End plan suggests, exploring blue economy and defense-related activity, I think would be helpful, because it will create the kind of jobs that allow people to stay in their houses in Newport. And then it will stabilize the population so that we can have a more stable economy. So yeah, I mean, the things that I want to promote are things that stabilize the city. The one thing I've seen in the 18 years that I've been here is when I first moved here, it wasn't so dramatic. There weren't these, like, the summers weren't as intense and the winters weren't as dead. I think that those swings are not good for the community. And I think that if we could stabilize the population, it would help with the local economy and the tax base and sort of, people's well-being and ability to live and thrive here. As to the Airbnbs, the planning board's been working on this. We actually initiated a lot of the regulatory stuff that surrounds Airbnbs and short-term rentals. I want to be careful to say that housing prices are really high right now, and a lot of homeowners use Airbnbs to make the mortgage. We can't exclude them from this opportunity. So yes, is it terrible that people from out of town are buying up multiple sites and running basically off-site hotels? I think that's not good for community. I think those uses should absolutely be limited. And I think that certain neighborhoods can bear the activity of Airbnbs more than others, but the bulk of the neighborhoods in the second ward cannot. In the second ward is a residential place. I happen to live right on the edge of the ward near the historic and tourist area, and many people in my area need the Airbnbs to survive. So I firmly support owner occupied, and I'm very leery of resident managed Airbnbs.
Kim,
Good, Frank.
Kim, Charlie brought up workable housing was his phrase for it. And one of the things that we hear often is that it's pretty expensive to live in Newport. What should the city be doing relative to workable housing, but also affordable housing? I think with this note that Newport is one of the few municipalities in Rhode Island that actually has met the minimum standard of 10% affordable housing. But what should be the approach? How do you create housing where people are going to stay in the city?
So we're actually at 15% affordable housing. That's the lower income housing. Workforce housing. Right now, we have a workforce that actually doesn't live here for the most part, because many of the people that work in hospitality live in other communities because they can't afford to live here. This is a dilemma that I talk about regularly, because so long as people want to sell their house to the highest bidder, we will have properties that are unaffordable. Recently, we had a demolition application down on Eustis, and a friend said to me, how can we tear down this 1,400 square foot cape? It will remove workforce, middle class housing from the tax rolls. Well, it's a 1,400 square foot cape. I went on the tax rolls and saw that it's valued at $800,000. That's not workforce housing. So we're already in this situation. We had talked about before. There are measures to create downward pressure on housing costs. We talked about accessory dwelling units. Right now, the zoning code only permits one single dwelling unit per property, but the state has a possibility, which we don't use, of allowing secondary dwelling units that would increase density and create downward pressure on housing. The other thing we could do is increase physical density. That would also create downward pressure on housing. The problem is most people don't want downward pressure on housing. They want their children to be able to afford to live here, but they also want to sell to highest bidder. So we really have to address this as a community. What are we going to do about the housing? I don't have the answer for that. That's a question for everyone else.
Charlie, what's your thought?
Hold on one second, Frank. Kim, I just want to let you know that, actually, let me ask Frank. Frank, is Kim starting to freeze up on you?
Yeah.
Kim, you're starting. We can still hear you, and we're not missing answers. So we can take a short break, and Frank and I can just talk for a minute if you want to disconnect and reconnect, and maybe that will be maybe that will work.
So I have a good connection here, and other people are coming in and out too. So I'm not sure what the problem is, but I don't think it's my connection.
Okay, that's fine, as long as it's happening to other people too. So
yeah.
Let me just check. Charlie, connecting here and everybody?
Yep.
Okay. Frank, carry on.
So Charlie, I wanted to ask you that same question. Basically, you brought up workable housing. How do we create it in the city?
I think it goes back to the Airbnbs and short-term rentals. Kim mentioned it before that last question, where it's summertime. It's there's an influx of people, and come in the wintertime, in the last few years, there's no one here. I think that's directly related to Airbnbs. No one wants to come to Newport in the wintertime, so you can see it in if you're looking for an apartment, for instance, or even a house if you want to rent. You can get it from usually it's November to May for less than $2,000, but that same apartment is going to be $3,500 from June to October, because obviously people want to come here in the summertime. If we can get those rentals to rent more year round, that gives people that kind of brings the rental monthly rental down a little bit, and people will have a better chance to afford to be able to live in Newport when they're working here. I mean, it's not perfect. Don't get me wrong. It's not not everyone's going to be able to live off Thames Street or off Bellevue Avenue, but there are a lot of places that they hopefully can find some housing.
Charlie, we have talked about tourism a bit, and there's a great question here from Top of the Hill Association. There seems to be an opinion that Newport is overly dependent on tourism, and that the city council should concentrate on ways to reduce the dependence. What are your thoughts? True, false, or oversimplified?
That's I got a lot of thoughts on that, but I'll try to keep them PC. Is Newport overly dependent on tourism? I'm not going to say it's overly dependent on tourism. Tourism is one of the top 4 sectors in Newport, but I never, it's not number one. I believe number 1 is healthcare, and I think number 2 is vice versa. But I don't hear anyone saying, "Hey, we're too over depending on healthcare workers. We're too over dependent on defense industry." It's always the tourism, and I think that it's just it's the low hanging fruit that people can go after. Obviously, yeah, we're a seasonal resort town, so in the summertime we're going to get a lot of people that come here. And there's a lot of people that live here now that used to come here when they were younger to probably to party or do whatever they were doing, and then loved it so much decided to move here. But no, we're not. I don't think we're. Well, I don't want to say we're overly dependent, but it's. I'll make an analogy to a sports analogy. If you have Tom Brady as your quarterback, and the game's on the line, you're going to put the ball in Tom Brady's hands. You're not going to give it to somebody else. So Tom Brady is our tourism in Newport. So yeah, we're going to rely on tourism because it's there, and it's been no different than this past year with the pandemic that's happened. If it wasn't for the tourism industry, Newport would be dead in the water right now. The only thing we've had to help us out this summer is tourism. And granted, it's down a lot, but we usually bring in about $5 million in meal and hotel room tax. We'll probably bring in, I think, about 1.5 million as it looks right now for the season, but that's something. There's not many other sectors in town that are bringing in any money. That being said, by no means would I just sit back and be like, hey, let's just hang on to the tourism because that's all we have. If I'm lucky enough to get on city council, yeah, I'm going to push for other industries to get in town. Newport right now is not business friendly. It is not pro for new business. The moratorium on the north end, I think, showed that. And even that there's talk about a moratorium for the rest of the city is showing that Newport is not looking for new business right now. I think that's crazy. I come to the table, with a business acumen. I know, to be successful, you have to be able to adapt. You have to be able to adapt and change. You can't rely on one thing. You have to do multiple things, and Newport needs that right now. And I think hopefully with the new high school here, getting some, a better education system, getting some new blood, new families in town, I think that will kind of help with the cycle of attracting new businesses and people that want to work in Newport, or even work in Providence but live in Newport.
Thank you, Charlie. Kim, I'm going to ask you the same question here, and I believe you brought it up as well. There seems to be an opinion that Newport is overly dependent on tourism. City Council should concentrate on ways to reduce this dependence. Is Newport being dependent on tourism, overly dependent on tourism? True, false, simplified? What are some of your thoughts?
Okay, so yes, I think it's simplified. Yes, everybody understands that the businesses that we have are under strain due to the pandemic. They need help, and I support helping them. But I do think that we need to think about the future, and the future needs to look in other directions. Obviously, our big sector here is defense. Yeah, we should be building on related industries. One issue about the tourism dependence. Well, a couple of things. It's too bad we're not more dependent on tourism. And that what I mean by this is that much of that taxable money goes to the state instead of the city. I think that have an Airbnb. 1% of the tax comes to the city, rest goes to the state. I can't remember what the number is, but we're not getting enough. The tourism, it takes a toll on the city. It takes a toll on the infrastructure in the physical condition of the city. We ought to be able to take care of our streets and sidewalks through the taxes that come from tourism. And then relying on tourism. Recently, I think in June, we explored the Shared Streets program, and we may talk about that later. But one of the reasons we were discouraged from pursuing that was because the pandemic had created this loss in revenue, and we needed parking meter revenue to make up for those losses. That's an overdependence. So I think that help the businesses that are here, but explore new directions. That's my position.
Thank you, Kim. And Frank, I'm going to jump in just with a follow-up quick. Kim, what have you, if you were on the council at the time, how would have you voted on the moratorium in the North End?
I would have supported it because I don't think it's business unfriendly. I think it's city savvy. I think what it's done, it's created a new context for business development in the North End that is ultimately much more productive and rewarding for the city in terms of revenue and development.
And just Charlie, just to get you on the record with the question, if you were representing Ward 2, obviously you have a vote. What would have you done on the moratorium when it came up in front of City Council?
I would have voted against it. I mean, I understand the reasoning behind it, but I think the council, as it's presently put together, really bowed to the pressure of a few people. Really the loudest people, I guess you could say.
Thank you, Charlie. Frank, you want to bring us back to something that goes right along with tourism, and that is traffic and parking?
Sure. That's always an issue, and it kind of also dovetails a little bit with the outdoor dining and restaurant accommodations. We can get to that in a minute. But the question here is, speeding in the neighborhood is always an issue. That's not me. I never speed in the neighborhood, right? And is made more onerous on narrow roads, many with on-street parking on both sides, making them difficult to navigate with oncoming traffic. You both have been committed to on traffic and parking issues in the questionnaire, but please expand these comments to address the second ward. And another interesting concept are the speed bumps that we see, and I've seen in other communities they have become quite controversial. I don't know what your take on those are.
And let's get my apologies. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's Kim's opportunity to go first.
Okay.
Thank you. I think that professional input is required for this. I don't think city councilors should become armchair engineers. We need a transportation master plan, and as you all probably know at this point, it's out for RFP, and we'll be conducting a big plan that addresses a multimodal solution to Newport's traffic problems. We are most certainly overly dependent on driving in a colonial historic city. We need to get the cars out of town, off the road. We need off-street parking solutions. We need to prioritize pedestrian and biking activity. So for that, we need a professional plan. Of course, we want to listen to the residents. And the residents are not happy with the traffic and parking situation. So this transportation plan will be yet another opportunity to engage and find out, the particular issues. But I won't sit here and recommend specific parking solutions or specific traffic solutions like speed bumps outside of any kind of thorough analytic and engagement context. I just think that that's not a good way to approach a problem.
Charlie?
So the traffic, again, I'm taking this view of my own personal view in my neighborhood and in this for the second ward, because I travel on the second ward a lot. I live on the corner of Berkeley and Middleton, well, Berkeley and Annandale, but I use the Berkeley-Middleton intersection a lot. And I cannot tell you how many times people just blow through that stop sign. It's not only cars, it's also bicyclists as well. And it's scary. I'm surprised there's been a couple little fender benders, but I'm surprised that there hasn't been more accidents. And I see that in a lot of places. You go down, Gibbs Avenue, Rhode Island Avenue, because you have these stop signs at, three-way intersections as opposed to four-way intersections. And people just do a quick little roll and drive right through. And it's dangerous. I had a friend, that was unfortunately killed in a moped accident 2 years ago on Memorial Boulevard, because people are just driving recklessly. It's frustrating. I tell you, if it wasn't for me running for city council right now, I probably would have had a road rage incident somewhere along the line. Yelling at somebody for not paying. I think that's something that needs to be addressed, and whether it's signage or more patrolling by the department, but it's something that needs to be worked on. The speeding in the neighborhoods that are. I know Kim knows this very well. I know she's an avid walker in her neighborhood, and I know she sees cars flying around all the time too. It's frustrating as a resident when you have to deal with this. As far as speed bumps, the ones on Broadway help. You have the one by Parlor there on the corner of Pond and Broadway is more of a speed ramp. I think. I don't think it's really a bump because you can get some air off that. I learned that the hard way. But it's, there probably should be some sort of a flashing light there, maybe instead of a speed bump. I think we need to have better on a lot of the sidewalks on Broadway, on Memorial Boulevard, on Bellevue Avenue, and even like we have on America's Cup, we need to have better crosswalks. We need to have more flashing lights for crosswalks, make it easier for pedestrians to cross the street, but even more importantly, make it easier for anyone who's driving to see that people are crossing the street and or need to cross the street. There's that one crosswalk on Chapel Street going across Memorial towards the Tennis Hall of Fame. It's a very, very dangerous crosswalk there. They have the big traffic flashing sign, but I'm pretty sure people are just oblivious to that by this point. You have the lighting's tough. You have cars parked right there. I know there's been a few accidents there as well. So we need to address those things before more people get hurt or even worse, lose a life.
And thank you, Charlie. Andrea, we have a couple more questions to get to from the Top of the Hill Association, but Andrea just wrote in, and I'm going to bring it up here. And I'm sorry I'm blocking some of your faces, but it's a great question, and I'll read it. We have had numerous studies, comprehensive plans, and strategic planning meetings, often at high costs. How do you see your campaign points moving past strategic planning to tactical planning? For example, tasks assigned, task completion, and further, how do you plan to obtain the completion in a timely fashion? Work for housing, parking, diversification, economy to mitigate the cost of these studies. Pretty much, you have all of these ideas. How do you plan on getting them done, and not just another study that ends up on a shelf? Charlie, why don't you go first?
My first step would be, is working together with the other 6 council members, and trying to get everyone on the same page and vote for these same things at the time. For whatever reason, we have some council people that are just hesitant to make a decision. They really, they need more time because they want more studies or whatever. Sometimes you just have to make a decision and stick with it. And if that decision doesn't work, okay, so then you can go back to the drawing board and find something else. But, and it's not, just with the couple of things that Andrea mentioned, there's a lot of different topics that the council deals with, and they just cannot come up with a firm decision. Everything keeps getting pushed off more and more and more. And next thing you know, they meet every 2 weeks. Next thing you know, it's been 6 weeks. I'll give you the perfect example. That one that I was dealing with was with the food truck licenses. I mean, that was a 6-week topic at City Council with a workshop thrown in the middle of it, and they still couldn't get it finalized or get it, have everyone on board doing the same thing. So you just have to get councils to work together, make a decision, and go for it.
Thank you, Charlie. And Kim, how do you react to Andrew's question? And I'll bring it back up on screen here as well, and I can read it. It's a long one, and it covers your face. But we have had numerous studies, comprehensive plans. How do you see your campaign points moving past strategic planning, tactical planning, workshops, et cetera, and getting stuff done?
So that's my question. I love that question. So first of all, planning is a process. It is not an object. It is not a pile of papers gathering dust on the 3rd floor of City Hall. In some ways, that's a kind of anachronistic idea. And I hear a lot of people talk about plans gathering dust. But again, planning is a process. So in this way, I agree with Charlie. Plans are about setting goals, finding implementation items, and then action items, and testing those action items, and then revisiting the plan. So there are different kinds of plan. A comprehensive plan is the broad public policy goals, 50,000 feet in the air to get the vision of the city. That's very different from a strategic plan. A strategic plan is it's a set of bullet points, short-term goals that may work toward the long-term and high vision goals that are outlined in the comp plan. And then there might be something like a North End urban plan that is tailored to physical development, a different kind of plan. So how would you actually get things done? So with the comp plan and the North End urban plan, zoning is where the rubber meets the road. So if you really want to make a dent in those plans and make changes happen as outlined in the big visionary documents, you would do something like revisit zoning. So I think that's an important thing that needs to happen. We actually have in the comp plan a series of action items that have already been accomplished, and then we have action items that are yet to be done. So I would use these documents, not collecting dust, of course, because they're on the they're all digital now. But I would use these documents as a framework for actionable items. And I think that a new city council should begin by outlining the policy and implementation goals of the body. That's what I'd like to see.
Thank you, Kim. Frank, you want to get us back on track here?
Yeah, I want to take a look at the outdoor dining and restaurant accommodations. I went outside today and getting a little chilly this afternoon. And so it looks like we are, at least under the current configuration, we're coming down to the final days of outdoor dining as it is. The governor, I think it's $5 million now that has been appropriated for heaters and other things at restaurants. Not nearly enough, frankly, for the entire state. What would you do? This pandemic has created incredible problems. Projections are that this winter will be tough on restaurants. How would you approach, or how should the city approach trying to shore up that industry?
Is that me?
And I guess it must be Charlie now, I think. Hey, that's a good one for you, Charlie.
I thought.
Well, they should just supply a bunch of Kleenex for all the business work, all the restaurant workers, because a lot of people are going to be crying this winter, unfortunately. But no, I mean, so the city just got what, $75,000 in a grant. The Discover Newport just got some money. Chamber of Commerce got money. Rhode Island Hospitality Association got some money, and that's mostly for outdoor, trying to extend the outdoor dining. It's very difficult because as a restaurant in this region, what you're asking businesses to do is reprogram how the consumer thinks, and that's very difficult to do. Most people know once they can go by the calendar. Once Columbus Day hits, they know outdoor, anything really outside is going to be vague. And obviously with the pandemic going on, we're restricted to what restaurants can do for inside. They're doing the best they can. I was disappointed, to be honest with you, at the beginning of all this, back in when we could reopen back in April and May, that the city council didn't do more for businesses in town. You didn't really hear from them at all. A lot of emails and phone calls went unanswered for a little bit, or there weren't any answers. They did a little bit better job trying to get people to wear masks and make things safer. But overall, I think the city council as a whole could have kind of stepped up a little bit more and be more available and have been more visible and been around to different businesses and restaurants and what have you. You mentioned you're outside today. I was down I was having lunch down at Broadway today, and it was beautiful. But yeah, it's. But I'd also like to take a second and thank all those businesses on Broadway and Bellevue Avenue in downtown for the job that they've done to create outdoor space and even some indoor space. I think it's been incredible to what the transformation, and so much of the fact that you have the Off Broadway Neighborhood Association asking about do we want to continue this after the pandemic's over? I think the reason that has come up is because those businesses have done a tremendous job of transforming their plans and being able to use some outdoor parking spots and whatnot, and making them look like they belong there. So hopefully we can continue to do that down the road because it's not only good, obviously, for the businesses, but it's also good for the city, and it kind of opens things up a little bit. And one of my goals is not only to keep what Broadway has done, but to expand it and make it more of a permanent situation, for outdoor dining. Obviously there will be fees involved, like you do for sidewalk cafes, but I think it's a good thing.
Kim?
Yeah, so in June, the planning board was alarmed by what we were seeing to economic activity due to COVID. And we formed a COVID response subcommittee, and we actually proposed a shared streets program. And the idea was that there would be temporary and intermittent street closures for the restaurants, and that the idea was to create a kind of free-flowing outdoor dining environment so that restaurants could stay open. In the back of our minds was an idea that we could promote this forward-looking idea about the city. I spend a lot of time in the Southwest, and in the Southwest, there's plenty of outdoor dining, and in the desert, not on the coast. And it can get down to 20 or 30 degrees at night, even if it's 80 or 90 during the day. And they have a system of heaters and tables where, people eat well into the late hours. And I thought this is exactly the kind of thing we need. We recommended it to the council, and granted, it was a difficult time, and they didn't take our recommendation. We recommended a phased program where we would start incrementally and basically flesh out what's happening on Lower Broadway, and then move it to Upper Thames and then even parts of Lower Thames. There are a lot of people that want this to happen. The merchants of the Broadway Street Association, actually, we spoke with them recently, and that was one of the reasons they got together and wrote a letter to the board, trying to find a way to further the discussion instead of ending it. Merchants do want it. A while back, I was actually handing out masks on America's Cup, and a couple came up to me, and their business is a restaurant tour business. So they get together with people and they take them around to their favorite restaurants. And they said, and many people have said, why can't we have this? They do it everywhere else. Why can't we do it? And I have the same question. Recently, I visited Hudson, New York, and I was saying on one of these events, they have a system of outdoor planters on wheels where they can wheel an environment out onto the street and lock the wheels, and they have plants, and the street becomes a garden. And it happens at 5. It goes to bed at 10, and the street goes back to normal during the day. I mean, there are lots of things we can do, and there's grant money to support these kind of activities. So I do think we should be exploring them, and I do think that there is future economic potential over and above solving the COVID problems.
Thank you, Kim. And Charlie, I'm going to ask you this question, and it comes in from a reader. And I'm going to ask it because it might be running through everybody's minds, or people may have thought about it. And I'll bring it up on the screen and see how many people it hides on the screen here. But Amy asks, is someone going to point out his opinion is biased? What is his comment to Second Ward residents who believe his interest is simply to further the interest of the downtown restaurant business? Where is his interest in year-round residents? We should all get low paying. So how do people know that your interest is in all Second Ward residents and not just the industry that you work in?
Going back to where at the beginning, I live in the Second Ward. I'm born and raised in the Second Ward, and that's, just because I work in downtown does not mean I'm not for the other wards. I'm actually for the entire city. I'm not. I'm running for city council for the Second Ward, but I want Newport to thrive. I don't want it to be falling apart. I don't want any particular region to be better than another one. I think it's very important to have like-minded people on that council to promote the whole entire city, not just one sector of it. And I knew going in, when I decided I was going to run, that there's going to be people that are going to say, because I'm in the hospitality industry, that's what I'm for. I'm going to be for hotels. I'm going to be for this, that, and the other thing. But I'm for whatever's best for Newport is what I'm for.
Thank you, Charlie. Kim, do you want to address that question at all?
I think that we all want what's best for the city, and I think we have very different ideas about what that is and how to get there. And so, I've already stated what my goals are, and I think that diversification is for me the way to go.
So I want to ask a question that's off grid a little bit, and we're coming up on cold weather again. We're coming up on that time of year when this city probably suffered one of the bigger catastrophes that we've had, the gas crisis. Do you think that the state, do you think that the city council, do you think that National Grid have done enough to prevent this from happening again?
You have to call on somebody.
Who are you asking?
Yeah, we'll start with you.
Kim, I think that our infrastructure is aging. This is why I think that we need to be leaning into development. And I think we need, obviously, more investment in the infrastructure. Do I think there is the potential for accidents like this to happen again? Absolutely. Do I think that the state and the city showed leadership? Yes. But the problem, I think, is an undercurrent, and it remains.
Charlie?
Yeah, I mean, there's only so much you can do when you have a situation like what happened with the gas line explosion. That's not something that we plan on per se, but and I think we did a really good job at that time. I mean, that was a cold week. It was tough for a lot of people. But you almost forget about that because of what we've been dealing with for the last, 6-7 months. So, can the city do a better job? Oh, I think we can always do a better job. But you learn from your mistakes and you move forward. We definitely need more, updated infrastructure without question, like Kim mentioned. And, but it takes money to do that, and we need to find that money.
Thank you, Charlie. I think we've touched a lot on development, but I'm going to ask the question because there might be a different answer when I ask it in this way. There is an opinion being expressed that we have lost control of development in Newport in spite of the plans and studies that exist. What are your thoughts? Is that true, false, or oversimplified? Charlie, go first, please.
It's over
there's an opinion being expressed that we have lost control of development in Newport in spite of all the plans and studies that exist. What are your thoughts? Is that true, false, oversimplified, etc.?
I don't know I wouldn't say we lost control of development. I think that might be, and I don't think it's from city council negligence either. It's just, I think we mentioned it earlier that we can only do what our our laws and whether it's zoning or planning laws allow us to do. So if people, and I think this is probably based from the hotels and then what's going to be happening up in the north end, and people see, again, people are afraid of change, and they're afraid of having something a drastic change really is what they're afraid of. So I don't think we've lost control of development. I just think we just have to do a better job and be smarter of how we develop and get something in return from those developers as well. It's a tough question to have an exact answer right now because there's just so many moving parts to it. But not that I want to continue to do studies and research, but this is one of those subjects that, it's always going to be, you always have to research it. You're always going to have to look at it. You always have to bring in other eyes and see what's the best for the city.
Thank you, Charlie. Kim, have we lost control of development in the city?
So I think a better way to phrase it is development can be doing more for us. And I think that development can be a bit more harmonious with our scale and character. Development can enhance the city we have and be more like what we are. So have we lost control? I think that's it's an extreme statement. I don't think we've lost control, but I think we can be moving in a direction that is just more advantageous for all of us.
Thank you, Kim. Frank, any follow-up, any other topics that you wanted to get to here? It looks like we have hit on all of we've done all of our homework, and we might have gotten 100. We'll ask Harry here in a minute.
Yeah, I think we've got to most of them. There are always other questions to ask, and but I think we've touched on most subjects. So I'm content with where we are, and would love to hear some closing remarks.
Yeah, before we do that, let me just so they don't waste their closing remarks on it. Kim, is there any topic, item, issue that you would have liked to have talked about, or did we miss anything, Kim?
This is a little bit past tense, but in the spring, concurrent with the lockdown was all this racial strife. And I do want to say that the planning board just developed a plan for addressing inequity and racism in the comp plan. And what we did was we looked at the American Planning Association recommendations, and it's a series of policies and chapters that will help to give visibility to cultures that already exist in our town but are not really shown in our policy documents. So that's one topic that I think, even though it's a little bit in the rear view mirror, it's also in front of us as well.
It's very important. And Charlie, before we get to closing remarks, anything that we missed that you wanted to bring up, or any topics or issues?
No, I think we did a great job of covering, the ward-specific topics.
And Harry, I'm going to bring you up here before they do get the closing remarks, and just see if you have any questions. And I'm also going to unmute you. So go ahead, Harry. Did you have any questions or topics? Harry Elkin is from the Top of the Hill Association.
Yeah, no, I do not. I really, you guys covered everything very well, and this may sound contrived, but there were a number of times I was thinking, ask them this, and you did. So that was good. And I'd just like to say thanks to the candidates. This is not an easy thing, and you both prepared for this. You could tell that this is not just tossing your hat. There's more to this than just tossing your hat in the ring. And you've made our decision probably tougher tonight, but both of you very articulate and thought out, and I appreciate you joining us for this. And to Ryan and Frank, all right, I'll give you an A, Ryan. That's
all right. Well, I'll tell you what, Harry, stick around, because we're not saying goodnight to you yet. So what we'll do is we'll get some closing remarks, then we'll come back up, and I just want to ask you a little bit more about Top of the Hill Association.
Okay.
After this is over. So I'll say goodbye to you. I'll zoom you down, and we're going to do some closing remarks, some candidate closing remarks. And Kim, I will let you choose because I think you won the coin toss at the end. Would you like to go first or second?
I'll go first. Thank you. I think my educational and professional experience adds value to any leadership position. I think my priorities are centered on quality of life, and that's consistent with the priorities of the ward. These priorities are developed from years of civic involvement and community work, and through interacting with my neighbors. I have a history of volunteering, a long history in Newport, and it's a great way to learn about to listen and learn about what your neighbors want. And at the city council, I realized that no one does it alone, and I'm a team worker, and I hope to be a part of the team that accomplishes the goals that I've outlined. I have a track record of turning public interaction and engagement into meaningful steps forward, and I hope to serve the citizens of the Second Ward. Please vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. And Charlie, why don't you wrap up here?
Yeah, thank you again, you guys, for tonight. I thought it was great. You guys did a fantastic job. So I appreciate your hard work. I think it's important for everyone to know that, you're going to be voting for someone, granted it's only 2 years, but you're going to be voting for somebody that's going to represent you on city council. And I've always felt that you should always be voting for someone who can represent the totalitarian of the community itself, not just different aspects and different sectors of it. I know if I become the city council for Second Ward, I promise to, to listen to everyone. I think that's extremely important for a leader, for a counselor, and that's what I do. I will be transparent. I will be available. My cell phone number will be available. My website's available. So call me anytime. I'm always there to help. And I'm doing this, this is not a paid job. So, I'm doing this because I think I can really give something to the city of Newport and to the residents that will, hopefully have an effect for years to come in a positive way. And just the last thing, and I really mean this from the bottom of my heart, that regardless if you guys vote for me or if you vote for Kim, you're going to get somebody in the Second Ward that's going to be a great ambassador for everyone that lives there, and we'll continue to Lynn's and Justin before her the great work that they've done as well. So vote November 3rd. Hopefully you vote for me.
Thank you, Charlie. And I want to thank you both. This was very informative. And I'm glad you guys could both spend 90 minutes with us here tonight. You've already spent an hour with us. People are going to start saying that we're in a relationship if we do this again. But
you gotta be careful.
I know. But this is how things are supposed to be done. There's respect, there's information. You point out your different views, and I really appreciate tonight. The people in Ward 2 do have a decision to make, and hopefully we've provided all the resources and they can make a decision on what matters to them. Frank, anything?
Just a feeling that, listening to both of you for the last hour and a half, and then for a couple of other hours, I think the residents in Ward 2, whoever they vote for, are going to have a good representative on the council. I think you both did well tonight. You were informed on the issues, and you, contrary to what we've seen in some of these national debates, you actually answered the questions.
No flies. All right. Well, Charlie and Kim, thank you so much. Very best of luck. Please, voting starts. Mail ballot applications are already on the way to people, and early voting starts next week. Please get out there and vote, especially if you're in Ward 2. If you want to know what ward you're in, go to the City of Newport's website. You can find out what ward you live in. Everybody in Newport lives in a ward. It's either 1, 2, or 3. So you will find that information right online. Wish you guys both the very best of luck. And if people missed any portion of this, they can go online and watch it. Thank you very much, Kim and Charlie.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Good evening.
Great night.
Good evening. All right. And let's bring the man of the hour, Harry Elkin. Did you bring ice cream?
Did I what?
Bring ice cream.
No,
How about that single malt scotch, Harry?
now I might be able to find a little of that.
All right. Harry, we didn't get to it at the beginning, and I think it's important because there might be residents out there who might not know that there is a neighborhood association where they live. So maybe you could just talk a little bit about Top of the Hill Association. Can you become a member? How do people get involved in your neighborhood association, general neighborhood associations across the city?
Yeah, the Top of the Hill runs roughly from a Memorial over to K, and maybe from Eustis up to it's fuzzy up there, but we're sort of like an amoeba. We spread out, and we anybody that's interested in spending time with us and having a good time, we take in. We're very much a social organization, but it's tough to be social in these times right now. So we've probably, I don't know how many events we've canceled and backed off on, and we're probably going to back off on some more here. So we're holding it together. As a matter of fact, right now we're renewing memberships, and we're going to be for those members out there, you're going to be hearing from us shortly that we're still up and running, and we're planning things, but as you can imagine, operating under these kinds of conditions, it's tough to bring big groups of people together. We often have every summer we have a yard party where we'll gather maybe 75 people or so and mingle. We have a big holiday party at the King House. It's a very enjoyable group, and I always pitch it to new people to say it's about as quick a place as you can get up and running in a neighborhood to really meet people is to join. We're waiting to unmask, and but I can't say enough to the neighbors and the good times that we do have together. But you've hit us on a particularly hard time. This particular event we thought was very important. As I said in the introductory comments, we would have held a community forum and brought these folks in front of us. We believe big time in face-to-face communication and carrying on just the kind of conversation that you guys facilitated here. So I appreciate that. And I hope that our folks, I know, having sat through this, I'm a better informed voter. And I hope our folks came away from that with this in mind. And now the big thing is to get out and vote. You're right.
There you go.
It is. And, it's so important. There's been many ways to learn about the candidates. There have been ways where there have been 90 seconds. And then there have been ways where there's been 90 minutes. And we hope that people take advantage of both opportunities. And, it is a commitment, and you do have to put the time in to become an informed voter. We can't do that for you. All we can do is bring the information to you. And I hope people take advantage of this. And I think they will. There are many questions that didn't get answered tonight from readers on Facebook. I will put that all in a document. I will send it to you. Perhaps we can send it to candidates and get some written answers if we need to.
Okay, yeah.
But there were many scrolling through there. They're still scrolling. But we can't thank you enough for thinking of us about this event, and we really appreciate what you do. And Frank and I will be looking for invites to the garden party as well as the Christmas party.
Definitely.
Yeah. Just one last quick note. When we talk about politics and we take a look at national politics and we take a look at statewide politics, when it comes down to government and what affects you most directly, it's local. It's all about local. That's why this is so important. That person who sits on the city council is going to help determine what your taxes are on your property. They're going to take care of your streets. They're going to talk about when your garbage is picked up. All of those things that are so important on an everyday basis starts here, starts local.
Yeah, and I had this one other comment that I was going to make to the two candidates is that for one of them, this won't be their last interaction with the top of the hill. We have our representative in to visit us in a forum atmosphere at least once a year, and we like to share with them our viewpoints about what's going on and get input from them about the way they're seeing things that are coming down on the city council. So we're very active in that regard. So yeah, you're right, Frank. This impacts us a lot.
Absolutely. And we getting some kudos, and Tommy says, great job, Harry. And
Thanks,
Tyler says, great job, Ryan and Frank. We're so lucky to have you guys as a resource. Thanks, Top of the Hill Neighborhood Association, for putting this discussion together. And I think that is a great place to end this. And encourage everybody to please go out and vote. There are so many ways. If you don't know how to, if you're unsure, please reach out to us. You can call me. You can email me. You can call any of us, and we will make sure that you get in there and get your vote counted. So, Harry, best of luck. We appreciate.
Okay.
Maybe we'll do this again next year, but hopefully you also have the option of doing an in-person one.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Or next time around, I should say. There won't be one next year. 2 years. All right, Harry. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you, Harry.
All right, Frank. Anderson
Brian,
Cooper.
you
I'm going to pull
forgot
in Anderson Cooper now.
Yeah, I forgot to ask me about my hat.
Oh, go ahead, Frank. What is your hat this evening?
Scranton Wilkes-Barre.
Okay. All right. That works. That works. All right, Frank. Great job. We have
you and
more
Ron on?
candidate forums coming up next week, and we'll be announcing those. They're going to be kind of fast speed ones, where we're going to give candidates for, there's 18 people running in Middletown. There's 10 from Newport School Committee. There's a lot of candidates to get to. We actually have a count. We have 105 candidates in Newport County still to talk to. So we're going to be speeding it up a little bit. And I want to thank Kim as well as Charlie for participating. I thought they did an amazing job, both of them. And as well as Harry and Top of the Hill Neighborhood Association for having us. All right, Mr. President, any last things?
No, just get out and vote. Most
All right.
important.
Thank you, Frank.
Oh,
Have a
what
good
about,
evening.
I forget what, and fill out your census.
That's it.
Still
Fill
have
out your
time.
census.
Fill out your census.
All right, buddy. I will talk to you very soon.
All
That is
right.
Frank Prosnitz. On behalf of Frank Prosnitz, as well as myself, we want to thank Kim Salerno as well as Charles Holder for participating in this Ward 2 discussion. This discussion was brought to you by Top of the Hill Neighborhood Association. We want to thank Harry Elkin as well as Off-Broadway Neighborhood Association for having us and for asking us to facilitate this. Lots of important information, very good answers, something there for everybody. So you can go back and watch it. Please share it with everybody in Ward 2 as well as everybody in the city. That's going to do it for us tonight. Thank you very much.